Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we'll be exploring the fascinating history of the samurai warrior, one of the most iconic figures in Japanese history. The samurai were a class of warriors who emerged in Japan during the Heian period 79–1185. During this time, the imperial court in Kyoto was weakened by political strife and the rise of powerful local lords known as daimyo. These daimyo maintained their own armies of warriors, known as bushi, who were often hired to protect their lands and interests. Over time, the bushi became more organized and began to form their own social class, known as the samurai. This was partly due to the rise of the shogunate, a military government that was established in the late 12th century to govern Japan. The shogunate relied heavily on the samurai for its military power and support, and so the samurai became an integral part of Japanese society. The samurai were known for their code of honor, known as Bushido, which emphasized loyalty, bravery, and self-discipline. This code was heavily influenced by Confucianism and Zen Buddhism, and placed a strong emphasis on the importance of the individual's relationship to their lord. During the Edo period 1603 to 1868, the samurai became more entrenched in Japanese society, and their influence extended beyond the military sphere. They became administrators, scholars, and artists, and their social status was solidified by the Tokugawa shogunate, which required all daimyo to maintain a certain number of samurai retainers. However, the Meiji Restoration in 1868 marked the end of the samurai class. The new Meiji government abolished the feudal system and replaced it with a modern, centralized state. The samurai were disarmed and many were forced to take up new professions, although their legacy lived on in Japan's military traditions and popular culture. In summary, the samurai emerged as a distinct class of warriors during the Heian period in Japan, and were heavily influenced by the rise of the shogunate and the code of Bushido. They became an integral part of Japanese society and culture, but their class was eventually abolished during the Meiji Restoration in 1868. The Bushido Code is a set of ethical principles that guided the behavior of the samurai, a class of warriors that emerged in Japan during the Heian period 79–1185. The code emphasized loyalty, honor, bravery, and self-discipline, and it had a profound influence on the behavior and culture of the samurai. The word Bushido literally means the way of the warrior, and it was developed over several centuries by Japanese warriors and scholars. One of the key tenets of Bushido was loyalty. The samurai were expected to be completely devoted to their lord, even to the point of sacrificing their own lives for his sake. This loyalty was based on a reciprocal relationship, in which the lord provided the samurai with protection, status, and land in exchange for their service and loyalty. Another important aspect of Bushido was honor. The samurai were expected to conduct themselves with dignity and integrity at all times, and to place the welfare of their lord and their clan above their own personal interests. This meant that they were expected to act in accordance with a strict moral code, and to always uphold their reputation as honorable and trustworthy warriors. Bravery was also a fundamental principle of Bushido. The samurai were trained to be fearless in battle, and to never back down from a fight. They were expected to remain calm and composed even in the face of great danger, and to always put themselves in harm's way in order to protect their lord and their comrades. Finally, self-discipline was another key component of the Bushido Code. The samurai were expected to maintain a strict regime of physical and mental training, in order to develop the skills and discipline necessary to be effective warriors. They were also expected to control their emotions and impulses, and to always act in a rational and measured way. Overall, the Bushido Code played a central role in shaping the behavior and culture of the samurai. It emphasized loyalty, honor, bravery, and self-discipline, and it had a profound influence on the way that the samurai conducted themselves in their daily lives and on the battlefield. Even today, the legacy of Bushido lives on in Japan's military traditions and popular culture. Women in samurai society had a limited role, as their primary duty was to bear and raise children and support their husbands. However, there were some women who played important roles in samurai society. One of the most famous examples is Tomo Gozen, a legendary female warrior who fought alongside her husband during the Genpei War. In the late 12th century, Tomo was known for her bravery and skill with the sword, and she is still celebrated in Japanese folklore today, is a symbol of female strength and valor. Other women in samurai society played important roles as advisors and confidants to their husbands, and some were even involved in political intrigue and espionage. For example, the wife of Oda Nobunaga, one of Japan's most famous samurai lords, was known for her intelligence and political acumen and played an important role in her husband's rise to power. However, for most women in samurai society, life was focused on domestic duties and supporting their husbands and children. They were expected to be obedient and subservient to their husbands, and their social status was determined by their husband's rank and position. Despite these limitations, some women were able to make a significant impact on samurai society through their bravery, intelligence, and perseverance. The samurai were known for their distinctive armor and weapons, which were both functionally and aesthetically pleasing. One of the most recognizable pieces of samurai armor was the helmet, or kabuto. Samurai helmets were designed to protect the head from blows and projectiles, and were often adorned with decorative elements such as horns, crests, and lacquered designs. The helmet was typically made of iron or steel, and was lined with leather or silk to provide comfort and cushioning. Another important piece of samurai armor was the cuirass, or di. The cuirass was a breastplate that protected the chest and stomach, and was often made of leather or metal plates laced together with silk cords. The cuirass was worn over a padded garment called the dumaru, which protected the arms and legs. Samurai weapons were also an important aspect of their martial culture. The katana, or longsword, was the most iconic samurai weapon. The katana was designed to be a cutting weapon, and was sharp on one side and slightly curved to allow for powerful, sweeping strikes. The samurai also carried a shorter sword, known as the wakizashi, which was used for close combat. Other common samurai weapons included the yari, a spear used for thrusting attacks, and the naginata, a long polearm with a curved blade on the end. The samurai also used a variety of ranged weapons, such as the bow and arrow and the matchlock gun, which were used to provide supporting fire during battles. Overall, the armor and weapons of the samurai were designed to be both practical and visually striking. They reflected the values of the samurai, emphasizing strength, skill, and discipline, and played an important role in the samurai's martial culture and identity. The samurai era in Japan lasted for centuries, from the 12th century until the 19th century. However, in the late 19th century, the Meiji Restoration brought about significant changes in Japan, including the end of the samurai era. The Meiji Restoration was a period of political and social reform in Japan, which began in 1868. It was led by a group of young samurai who wanted to modernize Japan and strengthen its economy and military power. As part of this reform, the samurai class was abolished, and their political and economic power was stripped away. The end of the samurai era was a complex and multifaceted process. One of the key factors was the decline of the feudal system, which had provided the economic and social foundation for the samurai class. With the rise of a centralized government, the power and influence of individual samurai lords began to diminish, and many samurai found themselves struggling to maintain their wealth and status. At the same time, Japan was opening up to the world and was experiencing significant changes in its economy and society. The Meiji Restoration brought about significant reforms, including the adoption of Western-style technologies and institutions, and the creation of a modern, centralized government. These changes undermined the traditional values and institutions of samurai society, and made it increasingly difficult for the samurai to maintain their privileged status. As a result, many samurai became disillusioned with the new regime, and some even rebelled against it. However, the power of the samurai had been greatly diminished, and their resistance was ultimately unsuccessful. By the end of the 19th century, the samurai class had been abolished, and Japan had entered a new era of modernization and industrialization. Today, the end of the samurai era is seen as a significant moment in Japanese history, marking the transition from feudalism to modernity. The legacy of the samurai lives on, however, in Japan's cultural and artistic traditions, as well as in its national identity and sense of honor and duty. And that's a wrap on our video on the fascinating history of the samurai warrior. We hope you enjoyed learning more about these legendary warriors and their enduring legacy. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on fascinating historical topics.